Being a tunnel rat was one of the most dangerous combat roles in the whole Vietnam War, and today we're going to talk about it. Welcome back to the NAMSOF 68 FOB, and as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to be talking about tunnel rats. So to start our video, what is a tunnel rat? A tunnel rat would have been a shorter US soldier that would have crawled into a tunnel with just the bare necessities, and I mean very bare. And he would have reconned the tunnel to figure out if there was any kind of weapons, any kind of hospitals, any kind of headquarters, communications bunkers, anything like that. And then also, they would have gone back into the tunnel and then set up explosives to seal it off. Due to the nature of this job, 1 in 3 would have at least been wounded, if not killed, while being a tunnel rat. So now that you're a little acquainted with what a tunnel rat was and what they did, we're going to talk about what they carried. And it's not a lot. So in every situation, they would have carried a flashlight. Typically, it would have been one of these angle-headed flashlights. So the next item, they would have carried a knife sort of like this, or maybe a bayonet just to kind of probe around for landmines or maybe punji pits or something like that. The next item that the tunnel rat would have carried is some kind of revolver. You do see some situations where 1911 would have been used, but because there are so many functioning parts on the 1911, they could get dirty and jam up pretty easy. So the next option would be a revolver. And Smith & Wesson actually had a special purpose revolver that was suppressed. Several of those were documented in pictures. I'll show one now. But typically you see tunnel rats using some kind of 38 revolver or 357 revolver in some kind of snub nose platform. Supposedly, there were people that even used cut down M1 carbines or possibly even sawed off shotguns. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of either of those, but there is writing about it. In some situations, they even would have carried a gas mask, and sometimes they would have even gone into the tunnel with a gas mask on. And there were a couple different models of gas masks that they possibly could have had. M17, M17A1, and one of the most popular models of gas mask for being a tunnel rat was the Grasshopper. It was very sleek, it was just very compact, and it could be tucked into a small bag as compared to the M17 or M17A1. It needed a much larger bag. So, what information that this tunnel rat would have gathered whenever doing recon on the tunnel would have been relayed up the chain, and then one of two things would have happened. Either they would have called in some kind of heavy bombardment on that area to try to, um, destroy that tunnel system, or they would just seal off the entrance and maybe try to find the other entrances. In some situations, they would even put gas or some kind of smoke into the tunnels in an effort to draw out any of the VC. Typically, if the chain of command determined that this tunnel needed to be destroyed, the tunnel rat would then go back in, wire any explosives, and then destroy the tunnel system. Some of these tunnel systems were so elaborate that they had barracks, communications outposts, they had kitchens, and they had wells, and they had multiple entrances, and they had miles and miles that connected these. And it made it so unpredictable for the US soldiers that they never knew where the enemy would be coming from. Because it was so hard to pinpoint where the enemy was coming from, it was very difficult to determine where you needed to concentrate fire or even call in a bombardment or an airstrike or anything like that. Being a tunnel rat was a super claustrophobic job. It was a super stressful job, and there were so many different things that you had to worry about. Deadfalls, there could have been punji pits, there were traps that would drop snakes on top of people, explosives, there could have been some kind of tripwire activated grenade or something because there was a lot of false entrances. And the last thing that they would have had to look for is VC because they inhabited these tunnels and frequented them pretty often. To wrap up this video, being a tunnel rat was one of the most claustrophobic, dangerous job positions you possibly could have held during the Vietnam War. And I hope you learned something from this. And I hope you stay tuned for the rest of this series as we go through the combat roles of U.S. soldiers during the Vietnam War. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you around next time on the NAMSOF 68 FOB.